Today, I'm going to explain a horror suspense movie called The End. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. The movie opens in the bustling city of Rome, where a young and successful businessman, Claudio Verona, is headed to work. His day begins on the wrong note, as he is picked up by a rookie driver rather than his regular one. The city also seems to have higher traffic compared to normal mornings, for some reason. Consequently, Claudio reaches work extremely late and is informed that an important client is waiting in his office. He rushes into the elevator where he joins his coworker Marta. From their conversation, it is revealed that the two had a brief affair before she got married. The elevator soon reaches her floor, and Marta leaves, while Claudio creepily checks her out.
Ooh, a mamma mia!
Seconds later, he presses the button to his floor and then picks up a call from his wife, Lorena. She sounds extremely worried and tells him what she saw in the news just a few moments ago. Apparently, riots have broken out all over Rome, and several key roads have been blocked. Right in the middle of their conversation, the elevator gets stuck. This annoys Claudio, and he tells his wife goodbye, but she reminds him to get milk on his way home. The conditions in the street may be lethal, but don't forget to stop by Mario's ranch and yerk that goat. After hanging up, he presses the emergency button and gets in contact with the chief maintenance technician. Claudio says he's stuck and urges the technician to solve the problem as soon as possible, but the latter reveals that there's a problem with the power unit on the roof, and he's already sent some of his men to check it out. After a while, Claudio calls his secretary Sarah and asks her to keep the client engaged until he arrives at the office. He then calls the maintenance again, but the chief technician reveals that he's lost contact with his men on the roof. Upon hearing this, Claudio is incredibly pissed and demands the problem be solved right away. Hence, the technician apologizes and says he'll go to the roof himself to see what's going on. In the meantime, Claudio decides to take the matter into his own hands. He starts pushing the elevator doors apart, but only manages to open them enough for his head to fit through. The elevator is stopped right before reaching the 7th floor, and rather surprisingly, there is no one there to help him. So he tries to climb through the door gap, but it isn't wide enough for him to go through. Claudio resigns himself to waiting again, and gets a new call from Lorena. She is afraid, because someone is knocking hard on the door, and won't answer when she asks who it is. Claudio tells her to call the police, but Lorena points out that the line isn't working. After telling her to lock herself in the bedroom, Claudio calls a friend named Stefano, because of course his name is Stefano. He urges him to go to his house and check on his wife. Stefano agrees to do so, but warns that it may take him a while to arrive, because the traffic is awful, and it may take him a while to leave too, because he's going to bang his wife. Moments later, Claudio checks out the news headlines on his phone. Several reports talk about strange attacks in different parts of the city, and also mention a lab on fire that was recently evacuated. Claudio is immersed in the news when suddenly he is interrupted by cries for help. A scared group of people runs past the elevator, including Marta, who falls to the floor right in front of him. She begs for his help, and Claudio grabs her arm, trying to keep her with him. But whatever is grabbing her is stronger than him, probably Marta's gift of common sense, and eventually drags her away. Witnessing this, Claudio finally begins to take the situation seriously, and a strange fear sinks into his mind. He cautiously approaches the door to have a peek, but is startled by two zombies trying to reach inside to catch him. Fortunately, they leave when they hear a voice down the hall. While trying to process what he just saw, the businessman receives a call from Stefano. The latter says he's almost at Claudio's house, but the call abruptly ends when he's attacked by a horde of zombies on the streets. Claudio doesn't get enough time to think about what just happened, as he immediately gets another call through the elevator communicator. It is the chief technician, who reveals that he couldn't find his workers. Claudio tries to explain what he saw a few moments ago, but the guy doesn't take him seriously. This proves to be a fatal mistake, as the technician is soon attacked and killed by, zombies. Now that the severity of the matter is finally beginning to sink in fully, Claudio breaks into tears. Things only get worse when a zombie reaches inside the elevator and grabs him by the neck, but he somehow manages to take the handrail off the elevator wall and use it to beat up the zombie's head until it dies. Shortly after, Claudio hears a noise and prepares the handrail to defend himself. It thankfully turns out to be Sylvia, a new intern at the office. He calls her over and, in a hushed tone, asks for her help to open the door using the handrail as leverage. Sadly, the two are still not strong enough to succeed. Things only get more complicated when the handrail slips from Claudio's hands, making loud clanking noises. Moments later, the duo duo hears the zombies coming, and Sylvia tries to run away before they find her. But to Claudio's utter horror, several zombies rush towards the spot and quickly jump on her. He watches on helplessly as they feed on her until she's dead. To think that she was getting paid in experience. After gathering himself, Claudio picks up his phone and calls Lorena, but it goes unanswered, prompting him to break down into tears. A few moments later, Claudio is found by another coworker of his who has been surviving by using a lamp to defend himself. The coworker wants to enter the elevator as well, and the duo tries to pry the door open, but to no avail. Their effort makes so much noise that several zombies arrive and chase the coworker away. Moments later, Claudio hears a zombie walk by and calls it over on purpose to taunt it. He makes fun of it for not being able to reach him, and his antics manage to attract several more zombies. He then grabs the handrail and starts beating on their asses, only to then get distracted by screaming at the end of the hall. Claudio quickly realizes it's his secretary Sarah who asks for his help. The desperate cries cause the zombies to notice, and they enter the office where she is hiding. A distraught Claudio throws his watch at the zombies, begging them to spare her, but it's pointless. Not knowing what else to do, Claudio starts looking at the news on his phone and sees a chilling video. A female reporter explains that law enforcement has confiscated cameras and expelled all media personnel from the area. She is currently live streaming with her phone. After reaching the outskirts of the city, the reporter tells the viewers not to try to reason with the zombies and recommends getting out of the city. Before she can say more, she is abruptly jumped by a horde of zombies and killed. As if things weren't bad enough, a few zombies reach the elevator door, and simultaneously the power goes out. Claudio watches the zombies trying to make their way in, when suddenly he hears some gunshots outside the door. All the zombies fall dead, and Claudio takes the chance to call for help. He attracts the attention of an armed police officer named Marcello. After making sure Claudio isn't wounded, Marcello explains he's alone and has lost contact with headquarters. A zombie soon tries to attack him, but the officer easily shakes it off and shoots it with his rifle. He's on New Game Plus already. Claudio then reveals that the elevator door is stuck, so Marcello decides to fix the generator. He gives Claudio a walkie-talkie to guide him through the building and a gun to defend himself. Marcello then leaves after the businessman gives him directions to navigate the floor. After a few tense minutes, Marcello contacts Claudio to inform him that the stairs to floor 9 are blocked by a pile of furniture, and because he's a video game NPC, that means there's nothing he can do about it. Claudio then takes a moment to calm down and think, and this helps him get an idea. He relays information that there was some construction work underway on that floor. This means there should be a scaffolding that Marcello can use to reach the roof. After passing by a pile of bodies, Marcello has no other choice but to shoot a window to be able to reach the scaffolding. The noise attracts some zombies, but Marcello stays silent and manages to sneak around undetected. Claudio also warns him to be careful because the elevator technicians had been attacked up there. Fortunately for them,
Marcello
soon reaches the roof and restarts the power. Back in the elevator, lights are on again, but the doors still won't open. Claudio uses a phone flashlight to look between the doors and finds the misplaced piece that is keeping them stuck. He is so desperate that he tries to reach it with his hand, but to no avail. His efforts are soon interrupted when a zombie appears at the door gap and tries to grab him. Claudio steps back and retrieves the gun
Marcello
left him. He uses it to shoot the zombie and manages to kill it on his second try. Unfortunately, more zombies show up and Claudio hesitates to fire his gun, but thanks to some encouragement from
Marcello
through the walkie-talkie, he steps up and shoots every single zombie at the door. Marcello congratulates him on the success, but Claudio is in shock and feels guilty for having killed people. He knows many of these zombies were his colleagues and even knew some of their families. However, Marcello corrects him. They aren't people, they are infected, and they must do what has to be done. Just then, Claudio hears zombie noises through the walkie-talkie and eventually loses contact with
Marcello.
Not being able to take it anymore, Claudio stares at the gun and starts considering the idea of shooting himself. A couple of cops suddenly appear at the end of the hallway though, running away from zombies. The desperate businessman cries for help, but they leave before they can see or even hear him. As night starts to fall, despair firmly takes over his mind, and Claudio puts the gun to his temple. His frustrated yelling attracts the attention of a group of zombies that are now trying to reach him through the door gap. Claudio decides he doesn't want to give them the satisfaction of being easy prey and puts the gun in his mouth. That'll show them. At this crucial moment, Marcello's voice suddenly booms from the elevator's ceiling, asking Claudio to open the hatch and let him in. This excites the businessman, so he quickly grabs the handrail and uses it to push the hatch, creating an opening for Marcello to come through. After Claudio helps him get down, Marcello wastes no time and shoots every zombie at the door with his rifle, and it doesn't hurt their ears somehow. He then reveals the wound on his leg where the zombies got him. As the two engage in conversation, Claudio asks him if he has any idea how this started. Marcello is a cop, and he must have been told something by the higher-ups, but the latter replies all they were told was that a virus suddenly spawned, and it began to spread. The authorities told him it was animal-based, but he doesn't believe it, as modern medicine has plenty of cure for such things. Why would a cop know that? The virus must have been created in a lab, and someone lost control of it.
Probably a China,
He says. Out of nowhere, Marcello starts laughing uncontrollably as he remembers a joke from a movie that he watched with his wife. He shares the joke with Claudio, who doesn't find it funny, but he does take an interest in Marcello's wife. The two men share some details about their married lives, and Claudio reaches the conclusion that the cop isn't a good husband. Moments later, while he's reloading the rifle and the gun, Marcello starts coughing blood. He tells Claudio that he's going to lay down and get as much rest as possible. After he's fallen asleep, he wants Claudio to shoot him twice in the head because he doesn't want to become a zombie. Claudio, however, refuses to take the gun, forcing Marcello to put it against his head. This results in a scuffle over the weapon, but Marcello eventually punches Claudio in the face, and the tensions slowly simmer down. A couple of hours later, Marcello has fallen asleep, but Claudio still can't bring himself to shoot him. He quickly changes his mind when pus starts coming out of Marcello's wound, and soon enough, the cop wakes up, transformed into a zombie. Claudio tries to communicate, but when Marcello jumps on him, he shoots him multiple times in the head. In the aftermath, we see that Claudio's leg has been wounded, so he wraps his tie around it in an effort to stop the infection from spreading. His shots have been heard by zombies, and now there's a horde of them at the door, but his gun has run out of bullets. Claudio drops it and grabs Marcello's rifle instead, which he uses to shoot every single zombie he can reach. The impact of each shot pushes his body back until it hits the wall, and with the final shot, he hits his head and falls unconscious. Some moments later, he wakes up when he hears voices and gunshots in the hallway. There are no zombies in sight except for the bodies on the floor. His phone is also ringing, but it's just the 7 a.m. alarm. Claudio turns it off, but then his phone rings again. This time, it's an actual call. To his delight, he hears Lorena's voice, who is actually alive and well. Turns out she had to run out of the house and the military saved her. The call abruptly ends when his battery dies. But this is enough motivation for Claudio to try to escape again. He grabs the handrail and tries to push the elevator piece that is blocking the doors, but he can't reach it at the right angle. So he drags Marcello's body over and steps on it to reach in between the doors with his hand. He manages to grab the piece and take it out, allowing him to push the door all the way and widen the gap. After a harrowing few hours, Claudio is finally free. He drinks the leftover water, climbs out of the elevator, and steps over some zombie bodies to reach the hallway. After finding his watch on the floor, he puts it in his jacket before going downstairs. He makes it to the lobby and finds even more bodies, including a legless zombie that drags itself over to him. Claudio pulls the rifle trigger, but there are no bullets left, so he smashes the zombie's head with his foot. As Claudio leaves the building and walks through the streets of Rome, he notices there are zombie bodies everywhere. He soon reaches a bridge where he finds a bottle of milk on the ground next to a woman. He remembers his wife telling him to bring milk after work, so he picks the bottle up. This causes the woman to wake up and grab his leg. Claudio steps back and is ready to defend himself using the bottle, but the zombie falls dead when the military shoots it from a nearby roof. The movie comes to an end as Claudio raises his hands, hoping he will be allowed to enter quarantine.